This is how to look at houses like an architect. I'm architect Katie Hutchison. We're going to start training our eyes on the exterior of houses, starting with the base. House elevations typically have a base, middle, and top. The base addresses how the house meets the ground. In these examples of simple shingled homes, the base treatment is fairly straightforward. The bottom shingle course in both examples directs water beyond the foundation. The house on the left has a concrete poured foundation. The one on the right has a concrete block foundation. The example on the right also shows a stepped foundation, which means the foundation is stepping up as the grade elevation increases. And how and where to step a foundation is one of the many design decisions that architects make involving the base of a home, and we'll see some other foundation step examples later. This is a more sophisticated base treatment on a Georgian home circa 1780. The three base elements that distinguish it are the cream-colored water table trim, which has a sloped wash or angle on top to direct water farther away from the foundation, and the foundation itself, which is rusticated stone, possibly granite, cut into ashlar blocks, which are finely dressed and rectilinear and then coursed in a running bond pattern common to brickwork. And then the third element is the band of piled fist-sized rounded rocks that edge the foundation. They facilitate drainage of runoff, and aesthetically they complement the foundation stone and the building color palette. These antique homes have rubble foundations, and the one on the left has a water table trim like the previous example, but the one on the right has a more pronounced water table trim that almost resembles a windowsill nosing. It makes a much more dramatic transition to the foundation, and it projects water considerably farther. Here's another example of that pronounced water table trim. This one is practically kissing the ground, which from a practical standpoint can be a problem. You generally want to keep wood well above grade so it isn't subject to rot. The standard is 8 inches above grade. These two have much taller foundations and illustrate different stone and trim treatments which reflect different degrees of formality. Of course, brick is a nice foundation material. These, like the previous example, dress up or dress down the foundation differently depending on whether water table trim is included or not. All of the previous examples were wood-sided homes, but when the building walls themselves are brick, it's still a good idea to indicate a transition to base. And here it's done with enormous granite blocks that receive the brick. The photo on the right captures a great example of how block material is well suited to creating foundation steps. This foundation step is less due to a grade transition than it is to a transition from a prominent front facade to a less significant side facade. This circa 1762 Georgian is a more nuanced example of how a brick building can indicate its base. Here, specialty bricks create a pedestal of sorts for the building as a water table without changing material until intersecting granite blocks about a foot above grade. I wanted to share some contemporary base examples too. This is an outbuilding I designed that acts as a garage during the winter and a garden room the rest of the year. The base at the barn sliders is comprised of Belgian blocks at grade, bordered by stone dust inside the building and brick pavers outside. A conventional poured concrete foundation is the base elsewhere. This recently constructed house has a poured concrete foundation with an interesting detail at the porch where the slate floor acts like a nosing or a cap or a water table above the concrete foundation. The same house is shown in both photos. You may be able to see the detail more easily in the photo on the right. This somewhat recent building has a similar nosing detail in the windowsill, in this case on the corner window unit, which is acting a bit like a water table above a fieldstone foundation. The fieldstone in this case is probably a veneered over concrete. Aesthetically, the fieldstone works very well with the large slate patio pavers and the nearby stone bench. Lastly, here a shingle flare above a fieldstone foundation acts as the water table, directing runoff a good distance from the foundation. This fieldstone is a veneer about 6 inches thick or so over a poured concrete foundation. Such a veneer system is a common assembly today when a material other than concrete is desired for a foundation. Communicating an intention about a home's base is one of the ways we lend home elevations a sense of order. The fundamental hierarchy of base, middle, top helps organize how we perceive buildings. Often the more complex yet legible the order, the more satisfying our experience of it. I hope you'll tune in again for the next installment of How to Look at Houses Like an Architect.